Today, we'll be discussing the quote-unquote lack of worlds that can be seen in Cage 3. Keep in mind that we will only be talking about the worlds that we can actually play in, and not the ones that are visible in only cutscenes. And also, I'll be counting the Dive to Heart as a separate world in each game. As you may or may not have thought, Cage 3 has less worlds than Cage 1 and 2. But how big is this difference really? Well, spoiler alert, it's not that big. I'm leaving this shit in, I don't care. So, the difference is, again, not that big. And Cage 1 has 14 worlds, Cage 2 has 18 worlds. Now with Cage 2, I gotta mention that I will be counting the Data Twilight Town as a separate world, as well as Space Paranoids. And now we get to Cage 3. Cage 3 has 15 worlds. And also we gotta take into consideration how open the worlds are, giving us this sort of illusion slash feeling of more of an open world experience, which I really did like. There is, however, one big giant issue that I have with the worlds of Cage 3, and that is what they did to my favorite world, Twilight Town. Now, Twilight Town and Cage 2 had much more explorability. I mean, you had places like the Sandlot, the usual spot, the Station Plaza, the back alley, and so on. And of course, I cannot talk about Twilight Town and not mention my favorite part of Twilight Town in Cage 2, which was the Sunset Terrace area, which we visited on the 5th day. But if you look at Cage 3, there is literally none of the areas that I mentioned from Cage 2, none of them returned in Cage 3. For fuck, I am legit pissed with what they did to Twilight Town. Anyway, I saw people all over the internet complaining about how Cage 3 had way few worlds compared to Cage 1 and 2, and while it has about the same amount of worlds as Cage 1, I think that this is because people were so used to the fact that Cage 2 had 18 fucking worlds and Cage 3 simply didn't, and instead it had 15 worlds, which is really close to Cage 1. I think Cage 1 had about 14 worlds, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, it's closer to number of worlds to Cage 1 than it is to Cage 2. Now granted, for Cage 3 I did count the Land of Departure as well as the final world, not Skull at Kylum, but the place with the skies, dude, you know. I did count those two worlds as well. Now I'm debating whether I should even count these two, because we did not spend much time at all in those worlds, but I'm gonna count them anyways, as we did have at least some gameplay happening there. And of course, I counted Skull at Kylum as it is the final world. Speaking of which, I have a little bit of a fun fact for you guys that didn't know. Most of you probably did, but for those of you that didn't, Skull at Kylum, when it's translated from Latin to English, means Stairway to Heaven, which is likely a reference to the Led Zeppelin song with the same name. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, Cage 3, in my opinion, does not lack worlds at all. If anything, I really like what they did. Instead of having more worlds with less explorability, like it was in Cage 2, it has a little bit less worlds, 3 less to be specific, but they have a lot more explorability, and as I said, are a lot more open. And sadly, Twilight Town is a wound that's not yet healed. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what I do here on YouTube, please consider giving a like to the video and subscribing to the YouTube channel, as it helps out a lot. And until next video stream, bye bye!